I'd like to call this meeting of the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners to order for the night of October 19th. Tonight, we've got a couple of conflicts. You won't see Commissioner Hall here because of a conflict, and our minister that was going to deliver the invocation has had a conflict and not here. And so for our invocation tonight, I'll be asking County Manager Lance Metzler to step in, and followed by a Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Commissioner Craig Travis. So if you'd all be kind enough to stand for the invocation and the pledge, I'd appreciate it.
You would please bow your head. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us gather here tonight. Please help the work that the commissioners do be in the best interest of all of us here in Rockingham County, as they normally do. Please look after all those who are sick, who are fighting the COVID issues. Please help them be strong. Look after our country. Look after us during these times of uncertainty. Please help us and give us strength and guide us in the right direction. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Face flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, you've had the agenda for about 10 or 12 days now, had a chance to review. And upon review, do you have any amendments, adjustments, or motions concerning our agenda for tonight?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. If I could, I would like to add to the agenda a closed session, but make it as item number 13A, closed session for this board pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4, business and industrial expansion.
Thank you, Commissioner Pirtle. Do we have a second?
Don't you need to add under new business
Stand by one.
Sewer line project.
the sewer line
okay.
project? You need to add under new business sewer line.
I would amend. I'd also add under new business request for board approval of the construction contract for I-73 sewer line project by Yates Construction.
I second it.
All right. Motion has been adjusted and second with an adjustment. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. The agenda is approved. Tonight we have a very special evening. It's one of my favorite. One of the programs we have in this county is to name a volunteer of the month, and we have lots of people in the county doing lots of wonderful things for not much money. They're stepping forward and doing things that are remarkable. And tonight, Mr. Terry Sharp is with us, and we want to recognize you tonight, Terry, and I'm going to come down in a second and ask you to come up, and Commissioner Pirtle is going to go with me. But we've got a recognition for Mr. Terry Sharp. Good Marine.
Would you like to
Commissioner Pirtle's going to get on the other side there. Right there, Doc? You got a pen? Yep. Like I said, this is going to be recognition for Outstanding Volunteer of the Month and for your dedication to our community, to the citizens of this county. And I must say to everyone that's heard about your prodigious marching that you've done. I don't know, have you figured out how many miles? No, well over 3,000. And he's carried the word from here to Washington and beyond. And on top of that, being a fellow veteran, it's always a pleasure to have Marines in our company. And we'd like to present you this. I'm going to ask you to get over between the two of us if I could, Terry. And we have this presentation for you. We'll give you a chance to speak in a second.
And Terry, one other thing that we have for you. We know that you walk across the state a lot, and you walk a lot between Rockingham County and Washington, D.C. And we have a pin that you can wear on your lapel, so it always reminds you from where you started. It says Rockingham County, you're in a good place. So thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to applaud first.
Thank you for this certificate award and the pin and the opportunity to be here tonight to bring awareness to the fact that we're losing 22 plus veterans to suicide every day. That's 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's a lot of people. And some of them can be saved. Some we won't. That's just a proven fact. You can't save them all, but we can save 1, 2 here and there. So it's all up to us. It's the family, the friends. You can't depend on the government for everything. Their government is there to help. We have plenty of programs in the VA. The only trouble is about 16 out of 22 never go. So if you don't go get help, it's kind of hard to get better. You know, post-traumatic stress disorders, traumatic brain injuries, alcohol dependency, drugs, all these things contribute to the fact that we're losing so many of our young military people. I mean, they're in their 20s. If you look at my Facebook page, you see them in their 22, 23, 27. It's, you know, the Vietnam veterans were number one at one time, but we're dwindling down. So it's these young kids from Iraq and Afghanistan and the Gulf War that are now taking their lives, along with the police officers and firefighters and EMS. Suicide is a bad thing, and it's been going on for centuries. But now we're taking more notice to it. So my main thing is to bring awareness to the fact that we are losing these good men and women, and we can save some. We won't save them all, but we can save some, but we got to work at it ourselves. You got a veteran in your family, you know a veteran, check on them. Carry them out to breakfast, lunch, talk to them, see where they're at. If you see them in a bad place, try to get them to the VA or get help. And that's basically all I do is bring awareness, because so many people don't know that we're losing this many veterans every day. And I'm afraid it's going to get worse with this mess going on, this fast stuff. So that's what I had to say, and I appreciate y'all listening to it. And I thank you for this certificate here and my pen. And thank y'all, and God bless you, and God bless our veterans.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I might mention to you, Terry, your name will be added to our plaque, and you'll be permanently on display.
Thank you.
We're down to item 6, which is our consent agenda. Again, gentlemen, you've had this thing about 10 days, 12 days, and a chance to review it. We would welcome a motion or comments to adjust.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion has been made to approve
Second.
and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed by nay. Public comment. And I will mention this is public comment and not the hearing. I know that there are many of you here to talk about some construction and zoning options. I believe I've got this right. Michael Exum.
Mr. Chair, do you want me to go over the procedures first?
Stand by one. I want to find out for sure. And I believe what I've seen here is several folks put down on this list and adjusted. Mr. County Manager, we have a process. Mr. Exum, you can come up and listen as you walk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is a public comment period, but the same general guidelines will go also for the public hearings, since we have public hearings tonight. The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to present any matter pertaining to county business or items on the Board of Commissioners' agenda. This period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the Board of Commissioners. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the Board of Commissioners and not to staff, the audience, or media. The chairperson shall open the public comment period. Any speaker who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and not speak from his or her seat. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium. Any citizens desiring to present any matter concerning the services, policies, and affairs of Rockingham County shall be allotted 3 minutes. And same thing for the public hearing. Citizens will be allowed to yield their time on a specific topic by utilizing one more attendee's time. This would allow no more than 6 minutes per individual. I will time the speakers and notify the chairman of their limit. The time clock will start with 3 minutes unless yielded to 6 minutes. You will hear a beep at 1 minute to alert you to wrap up your comments. If you are to yield your time or time is yielded to you, then please let the chairperson know in advance. Speakers appearing before the Board of Commissioners will not be allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, or use language of a personal nature which insults or demeans any person or which, when directed at a public official, is not related to his or her official duties. The Board of Commissioners may accept written comments in lieu of oral statements. Written statements can be delivered to the County Manager's office. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. If you have no question, the floor is yours, Mr. Exum.
All right, appreciate it. My name is Michael Exum, and my address is 161 Pierce Lane. And I'll be looking at some commercials sometime where it say, stay local, support your small businesses. So, Reedsville have 14,000 plus citizens. And the curiosity got me when I said $5 generals in big metropolitan Reedsville. So I said to myself, I'm just do a little research and see what come up. So I did a little research, and this was up by Anthony Myerson, CNN Business. He said dollar stores have never been more popular, yet a waves of cities and towns have passed laws curbing the expansion of Dollar General and Dollar Tree. They are the two largest dollar operators in the country. It threatens existing mom and pop groceries, critic says. And this is from Julia McCoffey. She's the senior policy associate at the Nonprofit Center for Science. She said the business model for these stores is built on saturation. Okay, my thing is, do you think Dollar General care if Paul can't pay his bills? Let's put the shoe on the other foot. Suppose you was in Paul's shoes and Dollar General moved next door. You couldn't pay your bills. You could not put food on your table if he went out of business. Now imagine being there, not able to pay your bills, especially your health insurance. If your kids or somebody got sick, they couldn't go to the hospital because they didn't have insurance to go. Some may, which one do you think, no, John, okay, do Dollar General care about Paul? No. Which one do you think they care more about? Their bottom line or the shareholders? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Exum. There's a little debate in my mind if this was on the right piece of paper, but thank you much, Mr. Exum. We'll now move on to our public hearings, and I'm going to ask Carrie if she'd come forward, and we will go through these in sequence.
Bring this up. There it is. sorry, I'm finding the case, it was out of order. All right. Before you tonight is rezoning case 2020-23, the next acreage contributing toward the South Rockingham Corporate Park. The property is located in the area of the corporate park at Sylvania Road and NC 65. It's on the opposite side of 65 from the parcel that was rezoned not long ago. The request is 3 parcels, about 25 acres, residential, agricultural to light industrial, general zoning, no conditions. The parcels are located in the economic development land class of the land use plan, whose purpose is to accommodate and encourage new industrial and commercial uses, characterized by lands outside developed and urban transition areas where substantial capital investments are strongly encouraged. The arrow shows a little bit clearer the location within that land class. This is a perspective to show you where the property is. It fronts on 220. From the intersection, there's a stub road there that will likely be requested for abandonment onto the corporate parks properties. Aerial view showing the acreage, and actually this is misleading. This square that appears to be excluded is indeed included in the zoning. So 3 parcels totaling about 25 acres. Uses that would be allowed are all of those in the light industrial zoning district. I'll just get ahead of some comments about industrial uses generally. This is light industrial, not heavy industrial. Growth management strategies of the land use plan that are relevant are several. Establish areas for water and sewer, key growth corridors, growth in and around targeted growth areas, land use policies that diversify the economy while strengthening or retooling existing industrial base. Land use plan policies that are relevant to this request: economic development, transportation, water and sewer, industrial development, and environmental quality, which I add because this brand new construction will be obliged to follow all federal, state, local, and federal environmental requirements. I'm going to put this back to a map so that you can ask questions if you like.
Gentlemen, any technical questions before we open this for hearing? Well, I will now open the public hearing to consider this case. Again, once again, that's 2020-23. And I only have one person signed up to speak regarding this, and Mr. Al Leonard. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for being here.
Mask, no mask. Yeah. Good evening. I'm Al Leonard. I work with Carroll Companies. Just a quick project optic update for you. If you've been by that site recently, we're grading on that site. All the erosion devices are in and so forth. So we're going strong. Hopefully we'll start footings and foundations very, very soon. The weather's been cooperating, so a little bit ahead of schedule. This site here we own. We're just trying to get a little ahead of the curve with the rezoning process. We're kicking around some inventory spec buildings we may build on it. But again, we appreciate your support. And we've got Robbie Perkins here and Evan Stone. So if you've got any questions for any of us, we'd be glad to answer. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're fairly familiar with this. We've been looking at it for a while. Gentlemen, do you have any questions concerning this particular rezoning? Is there anybody here that did not sign up for the public hearing? If there are no further speakers to be part of this public hearing, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed. and stand ready to hear from our commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve 2020-23 with analysis and statements.
Motion has been made
Second.
and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. Nay. You are approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carrie, you back up.
I neglected to offer the fact that the planning board did recommend approval unanimously. The next case is case 2020-21. This is a request for rezoning from residential agricultural to highway commercial located at 1401 US 29 Reedsville. The applicant is Terramore Development. This is a general condition or general rezoning district. However, Terramore has stated their intent to develop the property as a Dollar General. That's not a condition of the property. Should the property not be developed, it's better off with a variety of potential uses. There is an area between the properties, I'll show you in another map, designated as a cemetery. Dollar General or Terramore has done some ground radar there and has not found any indication of bodies buried in that area. Also, the cemetery is not included in the site that they're requesting for rezoning. This property is located within the urban transition land class, provides for future intensive urban and economic development on lands that are most likely to be scheduled for future provision of services. Lands being developed for urban purposes but do not yet have usual urban services such as water and sewer, but they are necessary to accommodate population growth over the next 20 years. Property is located here. Between, this arrow is not in the right spot, there's a pink hatched area that indicates the property that's being requested for rezoning between Mizpah Church and US 29 Business. An aerial view that shows the property. This cutout that you see on the west side of the property is not included in the rezoning. That was the area that was labeled as a cemetery. The uses that would be allowed, should this rezoning be passed, are a large variety of uses in this district, in this highway commercial district. Growth management strategies that pertain best to this request are areas where water and sewer should be upgraded or extended in future, key growth corridors and interchanges, growth in and around municipalities and targeted areas, the idea of defining detailed design guidelines and standards for non-residential development, because this will be subject to design standards when during the site plan review. Establish access management standards to facilitate the safe flow of traffic. The NCDOT will take the opportunity to ensure that traffic flows safely, driveways are located safely, and in the approval of the driveway permit. The other is incorporate land use policies that diversify the economy while also strengthening or retooling existing industrial base. Growth management policies that are most relevant: economic development, transportation, water and sewer services, industrial development, commercial development, community appearance, and environmental quality, again, because of the strict requirements that will be included in the development of the site. I'm going to leave this perspective, even though the arrow is wrong. I feel like this will be better for comments that you may receive. Do you have questions for me?
Recommendation of the planning board?
Recommendation of the planning board was to deny the request. It was 4-3 with 3 dissenting. 3 dissenting to a motion means basically that they approve the motion. So
And why dissent?
It's an issue that we're addressing, is really the best way I
Shouldn't be
can,
dissenting on the
I can
planning
say.
board. I got a question.
Okay.
Kerry, my concerns are that cemetery. I don't know where the construction's going to go, if it's going to be all around the cemetery. I don't know if they're going to provide a boundary area around that cemetery. My biggest concern right now is the protection of that cemetery. So if there is bodies on that cemetery, then it needs to be protected. And I don't want a lot of construction around the cemetery. So right now, that's my biggest concern.
The applicant will address that, I know, because he can share the data that they've discovered by investigating it. The only other thing I can offer is during site plan review, there will be a required buffer, but you can identify an area of disturbance that is nowhere near the cemetery, some kind of, all disturbance will be located away from the cemetery wherever possible, or such a condition as possible.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any more questions of a technical nature before we open the public hearing? Roger, then I will declare the public hearing open. And I think I've got this right. The applicant is Daniel Almazan, correct?
Mr. Chairman, before you call him up, I think Mr. Exum wanted to be part of this public hearing, so can we ask that his comments be reflected on this
They
public
will
hearing
be.
too? Is that okay with you, Mr. Exum?
And
Never mind.
we're going to pay attention to your comments. They should have been here rather than earlier.
I'm just making sure it's okay to put them
Yeah,
with this.
no, you're okay.
Okay, but,
We're not going to throw your comments away.
okay, but, Charles Barber, he had his name before mine.
He might be on the other list.
Okay.
We're on a different, everybody took their name off of that list but you.
I'm just adding you to the correct list, that's all I'm doing.
Roger, normally we have the applicant make the first presentation. I believe Laura B. Kravitz is going to speak. And you're taking how much time?
I will open, I believe, with 3 minutes or less, and I'll reserve the rest of my time. I have a few members of the applicant here tonight.
I'm asking you, which one are you reserving it from?
I don't think she's reserving any time, she's just speaking.
Yes, I think we'll all probably take our 3 minutes, but if I finish
Okay.
up a little bit early, I'd yield my time to Daniel Almazan.
Okay. Well, you have 3 minutes. We look forward to hearing from you. Please carry on.
Good evening. My name is Laura Krantz. I'm an attorney from Greensboro. My address is 100 North Green Street, Suite 600, Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm with Tuggle Duggins Law Firm. I work with Mike Fox. He is unfortunately at another hearing tonight, but apologizes he can't be here. We have several members representing Terramore Development with us here tonight. Daniel Almazan and Joe Strickland, as well as our engineer, Derek Goddard. Terramore is a preferred developer for Dollar General in the Southeast, so they've done many developments throughout North Carolina. They lease to Dollar General, so they are very committed to the maintenance and operation of the store after it's been developed. We are requesting that the property is rezoned to highway commercial conditional use, and we have included several excluded uses with our application. We believe that the nature of the property, its location along a commercial corridor, makes it appropriate for the highway commercial conditional district. And as the staff report notes, the property's location along the commercial corridor makes it more appropriate for commercial use rather than residential. The neighborhood is predominantly commercial, industrial, and agricultural uses. We believe that the store is a low-traffic generator, and as Carrie pointed out, the applicant will work with NCDOT in ensuring that traffic is safe and all conditions are met for the driveway permit. We believe that the development would be a benefit to the community by providing essential goods and services. And we all, I think, have experienced maybe anecdotally with COVID. It's nice to have those close by. And you can find toilet paper when no one else has it. That's always a positive. And we would propose that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the county UDO pursuant to the staff recommendation as well as the land use plan. So I will go ahead and yield the rest of my time to Daniel Almazan and thank the board for their time.
Thank you, Ms. Kravitz. Daniel Almazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Daniel Almazan with Terramore Development. We're stationed in Salisbury, North Carolina. That's where our main office is on Clumac Road. Our Terramore Development has been a developer for 18 years. We've done a little bit over 450 stores. This store that we're proposing will be about a 1.3 million tax base and generate about a $1.2 million a year in sales. One of the things we pride ourselves, especially now with COVID, is it is deemed an essential business. They provide all staples and convenience items at good value. And I know that we've got a limited amount of time, so I wanted to address one of the questions that I believe you asked. Well, whenever we went to the planning board, obviously we had some members of the community that had opposition. You've already heard from one, may hear from some others. So I thought I would just kind of touch on a common theme that we hear a lot of so that I could at least, impart that with you. One of the things that they often ask is why Dollar General here? Dollar General has over 16,000 stores, and so they have a market process where they look at their general markets. They base it off of households, traffic counts, and traffic patterns. And because the traffic patterns are different, sometimes that's why you'll see stores located close to one another because they're not traffic generators. People don't drive a long distance to a Dollar General store, and that's why a DOT recognizes that we typically only impact about 2 to 3% to the existing traffic studies. I know one other thing that has come up is not just traffic, but crime. As property owners, we suffer from the same crime as unfortunately the other properties in the area. And so with that, there are no studies or any evidence that we generate crime, but yes, we suffer just like everybody else. I know in this particular case because we have a competitor down the street, and it's always good to see community members that are supportive of their local stores, and we want them to continue to shop there. And even though we might have specific items that we compete with, we also offer other people in the community choices. And a lot of times we offer different items that they have, and there's probably some items that they have that we don't carry. I think, I know Joe has some specific things about the site that I wanted him to be able to cover, so I'm going to yield a little bit more time, but I will stop to see if you have any questions of me as I'm trying to ramble through this quickly. No? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Almazan. Mr. Joe Strickland.
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Strickland, Terramore Development, 214 Clumac Road, Salisbury, North Carolina. I'm the Director of Operations for North Carolina here. Like Daniel talked about, we are a preferred developer for Dollar General, and the market planning established a trade area there that was pretty sizable for us to come into for the area. So we feel like it's, for us, it's a great location. We feel like the community will benefit from it as well as us as being the preferred developer. I wanted to talk to you right quickly about the cemetery situation. I know there was a comment made at the last meeting I wasn't a part of, but I did take heed to that, and we performed a ground penetrating radar test there and confirmed there was nothing there but some old septic lines. There used to be a mobile home that trespassed over onto that property several years back, and we did find, and I think there's a report here clarifying what was found there as far as a septic line. But on our site plan, we do make some provisions. We're wanting to, it's going to be a natural green area is the way it's going to be left, but we're willing to fence it in. We'll stake the boundaries of it and fence it in. That way there's nothing that can trespass over onto it. And, the other big issue for us out there was DOT. I mean, I think there's, if I ain't mistaken, I think there's 11,000 cars that pass that site a day. And we were required to put in a left turn lane and also a decel lane. The local engineer has reviewed that site plan, and he's pretty confident that the improvements that will be made will take care of, any type of traffic, situation out there. So, and we are, here tonight with some considerations to the local residents about increasing the buffering. I know there's some issues there along Mesba Church Road, and we're willing to increase the buffering there with fencing, some sort of cypress tree, the evergreen that will grow 20 foot. We're willing to do whatever's necessary. We feel like it's a great location, like I said earlier, and it's for us. We want to be part of the community, and we want to be a good neighbor. And that's the other thing is when we get this store built, I mean, it's going to serve the purpose of the neighbors, and we want to be that good neighbor. So, and I'm here for questions, and I like to reserve my time for the rebuttal.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Stan Rabbi, let me bring Carrie up real quick before I ask my question to you. Now, Carrie, this is a map you gave us, and it strictly says cemetery on it. So where did you get the picture saying cemetery on it? Or is that something you just added?
It was on a plat. No, it was on a very old plat of the area that was never fully developed, but it was indicated.
So the old plat said it was a cemetery there,
Yeah,
and now they're saying there's no bodies there.
it appears that when a development was proposed for that area, the owner at the time wanted to set aside an area for a future cemetery, and so they platted it.
So is this a future cemetery or?
I can't tell you. All I can say is that all indicators today say that there is nothing in there, and that you can make as a condition of your approval that he does fence the area in.
I mean, I don't want to put a condition on it if it's nothing there. I mean, that would be crazy to put a condition on something that's not there. That's putting a fence around something for no reason. That don't make sense. I'd like to know if it's something there.
Local residents may have more of an idea, is at this point it's pretty much just the folklore of what people know, the history that they know. I have found no other proof of there being a cemetery other than the ground penetrating radar.
Okay, and you said you had a test done on the site.
Yes, sir.
And you didn't find nothing.
Nothing, except an old septic line.
Who performed your test?
There was a group out of Salisbury. As a matter of fact, I think Carrie's got the report that I forwarded to her through an email. Yeah, but we got a report stating that, claiming that.
Okay, so you had an independent contractor.
We did, yes, sir.
Do the test.
Yeah.
That's what I needed to hear.
But now, the cemetery was dated back in 1931, I think it was, and we've been told that we could actually claim the rights to it through adverse possession, but that's a 7-year process. And for us, we don't encroach upon it anywhere on our site plan, and we don't really need it, so we don't want to have to go that route. Right. And I was told that there's about roughly 11,000 other situations like this, where there's old cemeteries that nobody maintains, nobody takes care of. And I think the county is actually deemed with that responsibility currently.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I just want to make sure there's no.
I've got a report stating that, yeah. And that's the last thing we want to do is go out there, and dig into somebody's remains. I mean, and I can let Derek Goddard speak on that. He's our civil engineer.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Let me move on to my next question. One of the biggest concerns I had from citizens were, the line of sight, too much lighting going in their direction. And of course, I've heard about crime, and I got Sheriff here to talk about that. But what are your plans, or what are you willing to do, especially in the direction of housing there, to keep the light from outside, reaching them?
Well, I would be willing to perform a photometric drawing proving that we would not trespass our light across the property lines. And all of our new lighting now is the new concept where it's LED and everything is cast down to the ground. And our building is not actually, the old Dollar General stores, they had the big, metal halons that shine across the parking lot. That's not like that anymore. Everything is cast downward. So, we're willing, plus our store operation hours from 8 to 10. And, we can make some recommendations to, we still want to be safe. We still need to keep some security lighting on at night. but we could ask that the majority of them be cut off.
Well, a lot of businesses put real big trees up, they put a fence line up, and one of the other complaints I've gotten was, let's take, for example, if you're robbed, the robber might be running through residential neighborhood to get away. Are you going to be putting a fence up so they can't run that way?
Well, anything that we buffer against residential, we will have to put I think we're required to put a 6-foot fence, shadow box, so we would be willing to do whatever's necessary for everybody to feel comfortable. I want to try to find a site plan here so I can show you more in detail what I'm talking about. It's not on there?
They have one in their packet.
Gotcha.
I'm sitting here looking at it.
So you can, you're looking
Yeah.
at this.
I believe we do have a site plan within our package.
Okay, yeah, what we're willing to do, and I don't know if you can see this where I'm at, but across this boundary here, we're willing to encapsulate that with a
Hold on,
6-foot.
sir, if you don't mind, Kerry, is there a way to broadcast what he's holding up? That way the audience can see what he's talking about?
Can you do it here?
You got a projection screen right there.
Can I turn it on, will it go?
Jennifer?
Jennifer, do you know how to bring it?
If only we had a,
There you go, there you go.
Gotcha.
Zoom it, you can zoom it in too.
Yeah, so it's
I can't stand that.
If you can hold something out of the projector,
There you go.
it'll stop the light overhead.
Put you something overhead. There you go. There you go.
Okay. Can I approach the screen here?
Yeah.
And what we're willing to do here, and across here, and everything down in here is encapsulate that in a fence and some cypress trees. You know, our front along 29 here, we need to leave it for line of sight for DOT. But everything will be inside of the right-of-way as well. So we won't have any problem with this lower drive. So we're willing to give those conditions as well.
Thank you.
And I do reserve my time for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Strickland.
Kerry, you good?
Mr. Jesse Norton? Jesse, I'm sorry about calling you mister.
Yeah, I go by Jesse, that's fine. Me personally, I think it would be a great asset to our community. There's a lot of people in our neighborhood that does not have transportation, and during the winter months especially, it causes a lot of people to stay at home when they actually need something. It is a distance for some people. I personally think it would be a great asset even to the grocery store, I mean the little convenience store next door. I think it would give them a chance to maybe change some of their items in their store to fit the competition, but and also a concern has been traffic. There has been a lot of wrecks in that area, and I believe that putting that store there would help kind of rezone that road a little bit and possibly cut down on the amounts of accidents in that area. But again, a lot of people in our community, especially lower down in the trailer park area, they don't have transportation. Some of them just go maybe 2 times a month to the grocery store. And I believe having access to groceries and paper supplies, cleaning supplies, that does not cost a fortune, I think that would be a very beneficial thing to our community. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Derek Goddard. You're the engineer, right?
Our firm is the engineer, yes, sir. So I'm Derek Goddard, 1520 Meadowview Drive, Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and thank you for the opportunity. I'll be brief and try to answer questions as quickly as possible. There's been a lot of discussion about some of the technical aspects of this site, and as you've heard here, we've done dozens and dozens of Dollar General stores with Terramore Development throughout North Carolina. And what you're seeing tonight from the Terramore staff and from the representatives is is a willingness to work with the landowners, to work with the neighbors, to provide technical things on site, such as the fencing, the buffering, the vegetative considerations above and beyond. So I want to directly address some of the things that Mr. Strickland talked about. Our site will have what's called downturn lighting, where there's no lighting trespass onto other properties. We call it dark sky compliant. So it's shielded. It's shielded and directly faces down. No doubt here you'll hear a lot of discussion from the opposition about traffic. I'll leave you with this, that in North Carolina, NCDOT is slated with the management of traffic and the safety of this. And I can assure you, based on our experience, the NCDOT will not approve this site unless it's safe. Considerable investment has been made with this turning lane. Dollar General customers usually come from a 3-mile radius. And so what this is actually going to do will cut down on traffic because people aren't driving longer distances and going further from home. It's going to be more of a neighborhood node or neighborhood community store. Again, a considerable investment in the traffic plan at this site, and we've vetted that highly with DOT already. Finally, I'll speak to the ground penetrating radar that's also been talked about here tonight. I want you to understand what that technology is all about. Certainly nobody's intent to be involved in a situation where we would disturb human remains. And so our site, when we saw that on the plat, we immediately site planned away from that. And I'll wrap it up by saying ground penetrating radar just determines if there are voids in the ground or things that are buried in the ground. And it's a technology that's been used pretty heavily with cemeteries. So I'll be glad to answer any technical questions that you may have about our site plan tonight.
You good? I have one question.
Sir.
How many customers a day do you anticipate?
I don't have that particular information. That's probably something that the Terramore folks could answer better than I could. So,
Well, I'm sure they've got an idea, or they wouldn't be wanting to put a store there.
Yeah, enough to probably support the business. That's
no. I'm looking for a number. I know it's not exact, but
yeah.
I fully accept what you said about reduction in traffic overall in a general. I'm just talking about in the local. So, how many customers will give me an idea? You can shout it from the back. I don't care.
I tell you what, I'll give you a sales projection number and also a customer count. We expect to have roughly 10 trips an hour during the off-peak hours, and probably sometime double that during our peak hours. But the sales projection of that store is probably about $1.2 million in sales projection a year.
Well, I heard that. I was just trying to get how many people go through the door daily. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I had a question.
Wait a minute.
The traffic patterns that you're discussing, the decel lane and the left turn lane, the DOT, it would be encroachment on the property that's in question now that's being requested to rezone, not on any other property in the area?
That's correct. It's in the right-of-way or with all on our property, yes.
I just want to make that clear. Thank you. That's all I had.
All right, great. Thank you, John.
Mr. Randy Hankins.
Randy Hankins, 217 Liberty Road here in Reedsville. Me and my wife are currently the property owners selling to Dollar General, and I just wanted to make a couple of points. Number one, I think in spite of the handful of neighbors that are going to come here and talk to you in opposition, Dollar General is going to be a tremendous benefit and value to the community overall. As far as competition for Mr. Pulliam, I would ask you to look at the Love's Truck Stop. There were 3 convenience stores there prior to Love's Truck Stop moving in. There are still those 3 convenience stores there, and they're all doing just fine. You would think that Love's Truck Stop would have had a bigger impact on them than Dollar General would have on Mr. Pulliam. The other point I wanted to share with you is that the cemetery is a cemetery in name only. Back in the 1930s, the property owner at that time was evidently trying to plan for a cemetery of their, it's 0.15 acres. So we're talking about a little bitty piece of land. And then evidently they never ended up burying anybody there. With that, I'll reserve my time for Terramore to have whatever rebuttals they wish.
Stand by one.
Thank you for coming. I got an interesting phone call from a gentleman named Bobby Stanley.
Bobby Stanley?
Yeah, do you know who that is?
I do not know Bobby Stanley.
He claims he has ownership of this property.
And he
I
claims
didn't
that
know
with
if you
what
knew
evidence?
I didn't know,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there, but I didn't know if you knew him or not.
I have no idea who he is.
But I have no document, he just called me.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
We've already run this down, and we don't have any evidence that it's
Right.
true.
I just wondered if you knew him.
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I hope I don't mispronounce your name, but Patricia? Is it Selly? Settle? Oh, gosh. You need to cross your T, Miss Settle.
Sorry.
They named a bridge after you. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, Settle Bridge.
It is. It's after my family's mayor's. Good evening. I thank you all for allowing me to come to speak today. I am Patricia Settle, and I represent Patricia and Willie Settle, and we live at 1398 Highway 29 Business. It's right across the street from 1401 US 29 Business. I come in opposition to the rezoning request from residential to mixed highway commercial conditional district for a Dollar General store. My family has owned that property at 1398 Highway 29 Business for over 70 years, and we love the area. There are many children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews that play in that yard. It's a busy, noisy highway. It's a blind zone coming over 29 Business, over that hill. It's difficult for me entering and exiting that highway from my driveway, which is across the street. Personally, my house was previously destroyed by an 18-wheeler that rolled down the hill from a truck stop at that time. We have witnessed many accidents with cars ending in my grandparents' front yard across the street at 1387 US 29 Business. Safety is what we are concerned about. Our safety day and night going in and out of our houses. And we're concerned about health. We're concerned about the noise, and he said he can control the traffic. Well, he can't control it over there. It's going to come in my yard because I'm on the opposite side of the street. And then it talks about lighting. You know, that light's going to be pretty bright in my house when I'm trying to sleep. So I'm in opposition. Are there any questions for me?
No, but thank you for being here. You got an interesting family history, and I appreciate your counsel on flu shots.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilbur Evans, do I have that right?
This is Willie Evans.
Willie, okay. I apologize. Willie, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
Okay, along with Mrs. Sellers, my main concern is the traffic. And they cannot control the traffic, regardless, turning lanes or whatever, they cannot control the traffic. And they say that, and it would be a good idea, but another thing would be the crimes going up. You got a lot of families with young children. Once before, Paul had a break-in. I had to get out of my bed at 2 o'clock in the morning for 4 sheriffs to come and go around my property to check for a thief. And with Dollar General moving in, it's going to increase. There's no way they can stop the crime from increasing. The crime is going to increase. And the crook, he's got to have somewhere to go. He's going to go through somebody's yard. A lot of times they're going to leave on feet. They got to have somewhere to go. And everybody else take a chance of getting hurt or losing a family member or losing their own life. So it'll create a problem. I mean, it's some good and it's some bad and everything, but this involves a lot of people. It's a lot of people over 65 living in that area, a lot of people. We had one guy that kicked in one of the neighbors' doors. And the crime is gonna double, if not triple. And, I mean, I think it'd be a bad move. But, you know, that's just me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Paul Pulliam.
I'd like to give my time to Steve Mccain.
Okay. Steve, how about you coming up? Steve McCain, and you have 6 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve McCain. I live at 181 Speedway Drive. I live directly behind Patricia's home there. So I'm within probably a football field and a half of the area proposed here. As the Terramore project people have said, there's no studies to say that increased crime is going to happen and things like that, but yet I've got a ton of articles straight out of the newspapers. Washington Post, February of 19, dollar stores move into cities, residents see a steep downside. That's concerning crime. Not only that, property taxes, property values go down. So as your property values go down, do you gain? Rockingham County doesn't gain. Quantum Real Estate supports or reports that the lifespan on one of these dollar stores is 10 years. Mr. Pulliam's family's been there almost 50 now, paying into the taxes here in Rockingham County. His profits go back directly into Rockingham County. Where do the ones for Dollar General go? We know. They go to Tennessee. This whole thing here about building this building, they talk about how good it's going to be for the community. Well, if it's so good for the community, why didn't they ask? They say they want to be good neighbors. Why didn't you ask to be our neighbor beforehand instead of just trying to purchase the land? Unfortunately, Mr. Hankins says he doesn't know who Bobby Stanley is. Bobby Stanley is the landowner that's right behind that property. He was there when I moved in 40 years ago. His family's still there. So when we start talking about traffic, crime, taxes, dollars coming back into Rockingham County, I asked them at the last time we discussed this, who stands to benefit building this place? It's going to be outside contractors. Outside contractors are going to erect the steel building. They're going to put up a small brick fascia. Outside contractors, like he says, they're from Salisbury and wherever else. The only people you're going to see benefiting locally, even building the place, is going to be the concrete company. And that's only because you can't ship it that far. So here we go once again, adding another dollar store within 3 minutes of one that's already there. I'm sorry, but I don't know about you, but when I go to a store, if I can go to the store that's 3 minutes down the road, I can go to the one that's 2 minutes down the road. But either way, I'm going to use my car. I understand everybody says some people need to walk to these stores. I'm sorry they're in that position. But that doesn't mean that I should tear my way of life down and subject my family and their future property and their future earnings to a dollar store that's probably only going to be there 10 years, maybe 15, as they move on. Now, as we've also seen, and I've got it documented too, where these Terramore project people or any other contractors say they want to build a place, Dollar General says, you're going to build us one. You're either going to do it on this corner or you're going to do it across the street, but you're going to build one. It's 16,000 stores already in the United States. Let's see here. They've got more than Walmart, Kroger, Costco, Home Depot, CVS, and Walgreens combined. And what does that tell you? It's all about saturation. It's all about just stuffing one of these stores everywhere that they can put it. Now, I've been all over the world, and I mean all over the world. I've been in these small countries, Thailand, Vietnam, South Korea, Laos. All these countries have one thing in common. Yeah, they're underdeveloped in ways, but they all had a 7-Eleven every 5 minutes. So what does that do? It stomps on all kind of entrepreneurship. It stomps on creativity around there. and it stomps on future things, because all it goes back to is one big corporation. And they gain the money, and all the businesses suffer. All the local businesses suffer, all the residents suffer. You look at what they're going to hire. Who are they going to hire? They're going to hire one manager and then maybe one or two assistant managers. They'll be part-time, and the employee's going to be part-time. So where are you putting any money back into North Carolina? Where are you putting any money back into Rockingham County? Where are you putting anything back into Reedsville? We've got a petition that people have already signed, over 540 people. Make no mistake, that's 540 families. 540 families of voters as well. So Dollar General won't be voting for you. Dollar General doesn't help pay the taxes in here nearly as much as all these residents do. So when you run our tax values down with these Dollar General stores, look around, because that's the reason why you're losing money in Rockingham County. It's too much proliferation, too much saturation, and too much just everything with these dollar stores. 14 of them just in Rockingham County that I could count, 14. And like I said, there's 8 within 5 miles of my house, 8. Why do we need that many? And yes, there is a body buried there. Mr. Pulliam knows the name. I'm sorry, Mr. Pulliam, I couldn't remember the name.
Annabelle Jones,
So
young girl.
might need to be a little bit more digging going into that. Thank you.
Mr. George Barber.
I appreciate y'all letting me speak. It won't take long now. I've been a card carrying resident of 29 for 64 years. And Mr. Pulliam has had his store there for 43 years. He opened that store in 1977, same year I got married. And fortunately, he's still there, and my wife's still with me. I'm lucky. Well, the bottom line is he has been a good merchant, faithful to his customers. I've seen firsthand when they needed something, he would make sure to get it for them. He has been a good merchant for the neighborhood. Secondly, again, I've been out there 64 years, and I'm flat telling you, I have seen some horrific accidents, horrific deaths scattered up and down that road. And I realize the volume of traffic may be no more, not much more, but the traffic we have out there is so aggressive, that I can't describe. It's Dukes of Hazzard. It was what it seemed like. We'd be better off if you put a highway patrol satellite station there. Really. But that's it. Again, I say Mr. Pulliam is 43 years. 43 years. You know, you look after, as gentleman back before, he's put money back in the county. He's a county resident. He's just been a good businessman. And just as important is that traffic. I have seen it, trust me. I saw it this morning. I've got a place of business there, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, I seen a car run past 2 cars on a double yellow line and went right down where Dollar General's going to be, excuse my language, like about out of H. And I'm telling you, it's going to be a fatality. But anyways, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Mr. Manager, did you keep up with rebuttal time?
I'll give it a shot. I mean, 4 minutes will be probably enough. Try to keep up with it.
Okay. Well, Mr. Hankins, it's your property. We've got 4 minutes of rebuttal time for your group. To the Wake Forest graduate. team did okay Saturday.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm also a Tennessee Vol fan, and we did not do very well. So it's a hard road for me to hoe.
Yeah, you might not be good, but you're consistent.
That's right. We aim for that. I'll try to be really brief and reserve the remainder of rebuttal time for Joe and Daniel. Just wanted to speak to the basis of land use decisions, which should be about whether a particular use is appropriate. And that's what the local government is tasked to determine. It's not a matter of picking the winners and losers in the economy. I think if that were the case, there would never be the situation with the big truck stops and the 3 other convenience stores right there. And that's to the free market to regulate. So all the applicant seeks to do is add a commercial use to an existing commercial corridor, and the land is unsuitable for residential use. So with that, I will yield the rest of the time to Joe Strickland or Daniel, whichever one decides to go first. Thank you.
Thank you, guys, for allowing me to speak again. I'd like to talk about 2 points. The property directly across the street from us that Ms. Settle owns is zoned commercially. As a matter of fact, I think there used to be a truck stop that was there, some sort of a truck center back in the day. So, we're not asking for anything out of the norm here. If you look at the map, there's quite a bit of commercial property right around us. We're not asking for spot zoning. We're not asking for anything that's out of the norm here. I'm sorry.
No, just put it up.
And Mr. Mccain speaking to the lifespan of these stores. You ride around, you see Dollar General. There's quite a few of them. And we have a 15-year guaranteed lease that they'll be in that location for 15 years. Somebody's on the hook for that 15 years. And, you don't see Dollar General stores going out of business. And the ones that do go out of business, they don't go out, they relocate. And a lot of them relocate out of these shopping centers where there's a grocery tenant there who has restrictions against what they can sell. So that's why you see us moving to these freestanding locations, trying to get outside of that restricted area. And I'm going to let Daniel Amazon finish up with my time. And I'm here for questions.
The old musical chair is going, I think. So, well, I'm sorry to hear from the community that there is crime already there, because that does mean that we would suffer too. In terms of the traffic, it makes me think about the highest and best use of this property. Based on some of the traffic that's already there, is the highest and best use another house? Or has this location actually transformed more to a commercial use? That seems like it's more representative based on the traffic that's out there. That there are 7 to 9 employees, full and part-time, that will add. Obviously, we would pay our fair share of taxes. We've already talked about the value of these stores. And if there's some other questions, I think we've addressed everything. And we hope Mr. Pulliam is there for another 45 years. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I've exhausted my list of names to speak in the public hearing portion of this consideration. Gentlemen, before I close the public hearing, do you have any questions?
I do. Can we bring the sheriff?
That'll be part of the non-public hearing portion.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Hearing no other considerations for the public hearing, I declare the public hearing closed. Now, gentlemen.
Let me ask you, do you want to ask if anybody want to speak that didn't have a chance to sign up? That came in here?
No?
Okay.
Counselor?
That's up to the chair and the board's discretion.
Am I hearing that somebody not on this list has... You come forward and give us your name.
So the public hearing's still, is the public hearing still open?
No.
Okay.
Would you wait a second? Did you hear the directions from about the public?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. I'm going to reopen the public hearing in order to hear this young lady.
Thank you. My name is Miranda Anderson. I live at 167 Nisbet Church Road. I live directly across the street from 1401 29 Business, where they're wanting to put this Dollar General store. I have many concerns. The people here that are wanting to build this store, they're from Salisbury, North Carolina. They're not going to be the ones to have to deal with the crime, the trash, or the traffic. The traffic is absolutely insane through there. I was almost hit head-on the other morning with my 2 children in the car. They say it brings $1.2 million in sales and 11,000 cars to the area. You're putting, if you can look at the map, you're bringing in Nisbet Church Road, 29, Speedway. You have another convenience store right there. You have multiple residences right there. You're bringing all these people to one area on top of one another. I don't care how many turning lanes you have. You're pulling everybody to one spot. It's bound to happen. Somebody's going to be killed there. If it was your wife or you or your grandchildren coming through there, you're running that risk, and I understand that can happen anywhere. But you're just pulling people to one spot with just different directions at a high speed. My children, they're 10 and 1. You know, I want them to grow up there. And we live on a family farm, you know. We moved to the county to get away from the Dollar Generals and the convenience stores and the grocery stores and things like that. It's like you can't get away from it. In 1931, and that cemetery was put there, in 1931, people wasn't going to Wilkerson Funeral Home to get a burial plot or a casket or whatever. You know, stuff deteriorates over time, but that doesn't mean that you can just put a parking lot over it or a buggy return over a cemetery. It's not fair. You know, and I'm sure Mr. Hankins that lives on Liberty Road, I'm sure he's not going to be coming to the Dollar General there at 1401 29 Business to spend his money. It's not a good idea. Me and my husband, we work very hard to put our money into our residence and to make it look nice. And it's so our neighbors and the rest of our community. We really do. We really work hard to control the trash and to have a nice appearance of our home that we work so hard for here in the county. You know, and for the Dollar General just to be put in our front door for us to see as soon as we look out our front door every morning. You know, it's just really a slap in the face. It really is, because we contribute, along with the rest of our neighbors, to Rockingham County. Thank you.
Thank you. Part of what you may not have heard is come on up and just give us your name and where you live.
Richard Bratton. I live on 282 Willow Road. My property goes over to the Nisbet Church Road. That was my daughter that was just talking. But I have access from my farm right by her house and right down the street. One of the issues is that they say that they're going to put up a fence around the perimeter to keep people, if they rob the store, trash, whatever, to come through. So they got a opening to get in and out of that store right across from her house. So if it was robbed and they wanted to run, where are they going? Straight to her house, or straight to my house, or straight to Willie's house, or straight to Miss Stanley's house. I mean, it's like putting a horse pasture up and leaving an opening in the back. They go where they want to go. The next thing I want to say, I do know that there's a body there. My daddy will verify that it was a body there. Paul said who it was. My daddy sharecropped the farm before he bought it from the Jones lady. The next thing I want to know is when they do put the turning lanes in, so whose land are they going to consume? I know the state has so much right of way, but then they got to have side ditches also. So where are they going to put that at? Are they taking away from our property? Are they taking away from our property? And it's hard enough to get in and out of her driveway now. And imagine trying to get a tractor in and out of this property like that. I've almost got killed twice in the last 2 years. Pull up, I don't see anybody. Come out of the road with a tractor, cause the trucks that's coming over the hill. it's just not a good thing. It's enough Dollar General stores. I support Paul Pulliam. I've dealt with Paul Pulliam all my life. As far back as when Rainbow Speedway was open, I would ride my bicycle right by his store, go up and down the road, pick up pop bottles during the week after school, take them to his store, cash them in, get me enough money to go to the racetrack on my bicycle. And that's how I got back and forth and done what I did. There's no need to put this man out of business. He sells about everything up there that you need. And yeah, if you don't have the money, he's got a heart. He'll give you credit. He'll do anything in the world for you. Unless you get over on him, then you don't have no more credit, but you can still buy from him. I'm just telling you, I mean, I know, I've run the roads. I mean, I know, he's a great guy. His daddy was a super great guy. I just hate to see something happen with Paul. I hate to see something happen with my daughter. They just bought this house not long ago, and it was the house that she was raised in. And I was so proud that she got it, and then as soon as she got it, she turned around, look, you ain't gonna believe this, Dollar General's going in my front yard. It's just overwhelming. I mean,
Thank you for your comments.
Can we rebut? No.
Mr. Chair, if I may interject, I think it would be wise for the sake of efficiency that if anyone further has anything to say, that repetition would be reduced as to what's already been said.
Well, I'm at the point where I'm not hearing anything new. All right, what I'm going to do with the consent of my colleagues here is I will accept 2 more that are against. We will not do any more rebuttal unless we see something at that time that requires investigation. Okay? So, and I think at this time, shall we do 2 minutes?
Sure.
All right. Same deal. You got a couple minutes, you'll get a warning at 1 minute, and your name and address.
Yes, sir. My name's David Anderson. I live at 167 Missouri Church Road. That was my wife, Miranda, that spoke. I apologize for not getting my name on the list. I was held up by traffic trying to get here. The area that we live there on Missouri Church Road, specifically speaking there, both residences to my right and left each have small children. As my wife told you, I've got a 10-year-old and a 1-year-old. So there's 3 houses in a row that would be covered by the Dollar General. Home directly across the street from us has small children. It's a residential area. It's a residential community. You know, we ask that you serve the citizens of Rockingham County, not a corporation that cares nothing about a little dot here on the map. They've put their 10 little dots in our county already. We ask that you not allow another one. One of you was an instructor of mine, and something that person said to me, I've carried with me in my career, and I do it daily. It says, we're put into positions to make life-altering decisions for people that we're in front of. To always, before making that decision, think of it as if it was your family you were making that decision for. Well, 500 some odd people have signed in opposition. We ask that you make the decision if it was your family, as we have been charged with. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Baxter Motley. I live down the street from this location. My parents moved there in 1964. Next door to me is a church, very large church. Donated my grandfather donated the land. One of the things was, when I was a young kid, a tractor trailer came across my yard into that church quite a few years ago. I live 2 doors down from Tricia. We've been there quite a while. Her cousin lives across the street from me, 2 doors down from where this place will be. About 5 years ago, a young lady wanted to stop and visit her. A car stopped behind them, another car stopped, a motorcycle stopped. Our car came over that hill and almost killed the motorcycle. He got out of the way, but they had an accident right there, 2 doors down from where they're going to put Dollar General. The land that they were talking about is now the family lives on, when I was a child, a friend of mine, cousin to Patricia, her uncle, came around that curve on the Middlesbrough Church and went into the same field that their yard is in. He died there. I saw his brains come out of his head in that yard. This was years ago when I was 16 years old. I just want to say the safety of the neighborhood, the lot is too small for a retail store. It should be just manufacturing or something like that. I live across the street from what was Jim Danzy's junkyard, which was there for years and years. Mr. Pulliam knows the buildings leads that own that. It's now a vintage places they just make countertops. No traffic, no problems. Dollar General would bring too much traffic into the area. I think that's a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right.
Gentlemen, do you need to hear anything else from any of the witnesses? In that case, the public hearing is closed. Gentlemen, do you wish to hear any expert opinions?
I do, and you know who it is.
Sheriff, I believe we'd like to have somebody comment on the crime issue.
Mr. Chair, may I interject? There was a request for some information which Colonel will go into, Colonel Farrell will talk about, but there's one thing that I'm not aware was a request for a crash report. And I would like to comment, if I may, just for a minute or two on that.
We would like for you to comment on the crash.
Okay.
Crash report.
Sheriff Sam Page, 645 South Madison Street, Eden, North Carolina. I've lived in Rockingham County all my life. I've served in law enforcement for 37 years in Rockingham County, 33 years of that, the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office. I've worked the area we're talking about. 29 businesses, formerly 29 bypass. It is a heavily traveled road. I don't know the traffic count because I wouldn't ask the question. I've heard 12,000, 11,000 cars. Okay. It is a heavily traveled road. A week ago, I had a commercial truck drive down just a half mile south of the location, hydroplane, and hit the gates to Elm Grove Cemetery and took the whole gate down. Okay. I don't think anybody was seriously injured, but it's within a half mile of this location. The other road, Misfit Church Road, comes into, if you can look, it comes into 29 business at an unusual angle. And I can tell you, I drive these roads regularly. It's a dangerous intersection. Now, I don't know on crash reporting how many persons have been in an accident in the past 3, 5, 10 years, but I responded to accidents on 29 business within a half mile to a mile of that location. It is a very dangerous intersection. A question I had to the engineers to Miami, well, have you talked to DOT or anybody about any realigning of that intersection, which I haven't heard anything about. But again, it's a very awkward angle where you have to look back over a rise. And when you add a left turn lane, now you're creating cross turnover traffic, which can result, when you make left turns, you can either have rear end or you can have head-on collisions. So I just want to let you know is I do recommend that you contact the Highway Patrol, get a crash report number. But I can tell you this, in my 33 years with the Sheriff's Office, there have been accidents in and around that area. And again, Misfit Church Road is a major cutover road. Highway 29 Business is a main entry road coming into Rockingham County. But there have been several reports of accidents in response. At this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Alan Farrah. I do want to let you know that also I am familiar with the owner of the business, Mr. Pulliam, and I've known him a long time. He's been in the area with his dad, himself, running that business. But again, I am concerned about the traffic issue, and it's an unrestricted light, no lights, just a stop sign. But adding that additional mechanism or that business there, I think could create some issues there as far as traffic and safety. Please. Colonel Alan Farrah.
Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to come up today and speak. I was asked to gather some information based on the current Dollar General, Family Dollar type stores that we have located throughout the county in the unincorporated areas. So what I did, I went back through our records management system and went back 3 years for each location. We have 4 in the county. We have 2 located here in Wentworth, 1 located in Reedsville on 158 East going towards Caswell County, and also one on US 220 in the Stokesdale, Madison area. And basically what we went back and did, just pulled the information, and I'll just go ahead and give you the numbers for each one. Again, this is a 3-year span of time. Highway 87, the Dollar General, there have been 7 calls for service in the last 3 years. The Family Dollar on Highway 87 here in Wentworth, there have been 6 calls for service in the last 3 years. The Dollar General on US 158 in Reedsville, there have been 9 calls for service in 3 years. And the Dollar General located on US 220, there have been 8 calls for service in the last 3 years. So looking at the averages, it averages out to about 3.2 calls per year at each Dollar General type store. And the majority of the calls for service at these locations typically is a larceny, which is basically could be a a shoplifting type call. And that did follow true to suit. That was the majority of the calls at these locations. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them from the data that I've got from the last 3 years. The 4 locations in the county, yes.
Colonel Farrell, how many calls were for trash, littering?
Okay. At all 4 locations in the last 3 years, according to RMS, there were no calls for service for littering or trash.
Mr. Chairman. Were they all property crimes, or was any robberies or crime against person?
Property crimes, we're looking at larceny, misdemeanors, larceny for motor vehicles. There were a few alcohol violations. One simple possession, which would be a drug charge at one of the locations. And the rest of them look to be property crimes, concealment. And obviously there are 2 robberies. There was one on the 158 location, which was in August of 2018. And there was also a robbery at the location here in Family Dollar in Wentworth, which was March of this year.
Were any of these categorized as violent crimes?
There was-
Assaults or, you know?
The robberies, I would classify that as a violent act. There was also one assault that took place in Wentworth where there was what I would describe as a purse snatching, a common law robbery, where the individual was pushed to the ground.
Seniors.
An elderly subject.
Other questions? Appreciate your research, appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioners.
Questions of fact, opinions, rebuttals? Well, I think we've heard a lot of evidence tonight, Mr. Chairman, on both sides of the issue, and I certainly respect and understand everybody's opinion. And Mr. Pulliam, appreciate your patronage and your everything you've done in Rockingham County over the last 47 years. But there are some issues that are still before us, as we've heard from both sides. I think the question in my mind's eye is that, you know, this piece of property, if I'm not mistaken, and this may be a Kerry question, it essentially connects to another piece of property that is zoned just as this request is. Is that correct? Although it's separated by the highway, you don't use that as a buffer when you're considering zoning. Is that accurate?
That is correct, and zoned properties mean potential land use, and you're comparing land use requests to potential land use, even if they're not developed right now.
Okay. And of your staff reports, in your staff report that you submitted to us, there's a couple of things that I noticed, and maybe I didn't read somewhere, or it's embedded in the information, and I think I read it all. And I did do a site visit. I rode out there and rode around
Mr. Pulliam, I was going to stop in your store, but there was nowhere to park when I come through. So congratulations on that. But one of the things I noticed is that in your information that you give us, in the annual average daily traffic count on 29 business, there was a typo. It says 20 business. It said it declined recent years to
That's
7,200
correct.
vehicles per trip.
Based on the annual average daily trip count that DOT produces.
And on Miss Church Road, it said decline, but did not give us a specific amount. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did we have that amount? We don't know.
Probably.
I don't expect you to recall it.
Should.
But my
I could probably
question too
find it
is,
pretty quickly.
I guess where I'm going is, if I understood correctly, I think it was, this Dollar General is not a destination store. It's more of a neighborhood store, and that it only adds to the traffic count. I think it was 2 to 3% of each daily, average daily traffic on each road. Would that be accurate?
That is what the applicant had stated, yes, sir.
Okay. And the question before us is whether this fits within our land use and our UDO. Is that?
That is correct, or whether it's an appropriate, and based on the consistency statement, that is the lens through which you are charged to review cases like this.
Okay. That's all I have right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anything else, folks? A couple things I heard. And you might be able to help with this, Carrie. We didn't have a name for a potential body in this cemetery. And I'm calling it a cemetery because that's what it's labeled on the plat. But it seems that if there was a death certificate issued, it should indicate place of burial. So that might be working, notwithstanding the fact that the applicant intends to isolate this area anyhow from a potential to desecrate a cemetery. So, but it would be nice to know whether there's really somebody there or not. And Mr. Pulliam has given us a name, and we can at least research the death certificate.
We could give it a shot. There's no ownership associated with the cemetery at this time. That was why the applicant talked about adverse possession.
Sure.
So, but I mean, maybe a search through historical records, and maybe I can get the assistance of the.
Well, I'm satisfied with what the applicant's doing. I just think we ought to know if there's somebody really there or not. And,
There's a lot of issues or cases just like this throughout the county.
I'm not guaranteeing you success.
Okay.
Just ask the question.
Yes, sir.
And we've heard several things. I might mention to everybody here, not all of you get involved in rezoning questions. We get involved with them frequently, almost every meeting. One thing I can tell you for sure about rezoning questions, in almost all cases, somebody's going to like what we do and somebody's not going to like it. All I can promise you, and these folks, I've been out there, you've been out there, I think.
I've been out there.
We physically go out, we look at the research, we listen to our staff, we question the staff, we question Sheriff's Department and other appropriate folks to get as much information as we can to make as honest, square a decision. And yes, we're probably known as a landowner, owner-friendly board of commission. I would hope most of them are. It's kind of the American way. So we're going to consider this question, and we're going to give you our best answer as honest as we can. Yes, sir.
Carrie.
Yes.
One of the things we heard from the potential developer has to deal with, I guess, buffer zones. And those buffer zones, would that be something for technical review, or would that be something for us to address here?
You can, for technical review, the buffer zones would meet the ordinance. There are landscaping buffer requirements in the UDO. What you would be doing is adding perhaps a deeper width to those, or a denser type of buffer than would be required by ordinance.
All right, and our ordinance right now requires what?
It's anywhere from 10 to 20 feet with a mix of vegetation that would, between this property and the others, that would provide what would be described as a dense barrier that you can't see through. And then what happens is we get a landscape architect will submit a plan, and we will review that for compliance with the ordinance.
Do we have anything from DOT in regards, I'm interested in these crashes, whether they anticipate a degradation in safety with this building being put there?
I haven't spoken to them yet, and typically, of course, their role is to study a site plan after a zoning is approved, study a site plan in detail before they permit a driveway off of a public road. So I could reach out to them to see if there's information available, and also to see if there's any plans to straighten out Mizpah Church as it intersects with 29.
Okay.
It's not germane necessarily to your approval of this particular request, but it is something I can ask about.
DOT can override us. I mean, if they don't give a road access, that overrides us.
Yeah.
Commissioner Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to tell everybody for and against, thank you for coming out. You definitely didn't make my job easy tonight, but you didn't elect us up here to make easy decisions, and I understand I'm not going to make everybody happy or a few happy, but you know, I'm still concerned about the cemetery. So I'm going to let you know I'll vote no on this tonight.
Well, I know a lot of business establishments that have cemeteries right next door. Further questions? No. Well, hearing none, I'm going to call for a motion either for or against this proposal.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure there's some more information that wouldn't be pertinent at this point. I think I would like to hear, one, get a definite thing on the question called about the cemetery that Commissioner Travis spoke of. I know that we did some radar, I guess ground penetrating radar. I want to make sure I'm using the right verbiage when we did that. I would, I'd have a question about maybe making that available to us to see that. And I'd also have a question about the accuracy of this traffic count. If I'm hearing two different numbers and the impact on those 2 to 3% on those numbers, just want to make sure that that information we're getting is correct. So I would make a motion to table this until and maybe before I give a date, I need to check with Carrie to see how long it will take her to get any additional information.
What I'm hearing is a motion to table until we have more information from DOT regarding traffic count.
Well, yes, the numbers I'm getting is what's written in here says 7,200 decline, and then it doesn't say what it is on Mizpah Church Road and what the decline was. And I'd also like to make sure that's an accurate count when we're sitting there talking about, from what I'm hearing from the sheriff, about the safety associated with the traffic crashes on here and the traffic crash information. But I think one of my other colleagues was invited to chime in.
More information from DOT to be more comprehensive, basically.
That's correct.
And the cemetery information, yes, sir.
Well, I think the sheriff brought up some information, encouraged us to get some more data from DOT. As far as the cemetery, I really, they've set that aside and do not have an intent to develop on it, on that part of this separate property. The cemetery itself is a separate piece of property that is not part of what's being sold, not part of what's being acquired. So the cemetery itself is completely irrelevant to the entire discussion. And the only part that's relevant, I believe the sheriff pointed out, is needing more information from DOT, is what the sheriff encouraged. So, I don't think we need to get sidetracked on other people's property, which would be the cemetery.
I would agree. Mr. Poyman, just out of curiosity, are there any family members of this deceased that have taken care of the property over time, just for our own knowledge?
I was told by people that were kin to her that she died back in 1918 during that flu. She was buried then, and evidently they made it a cemetery later on.
Is there any upkeep to the cemetery being done?
I'm trying to see if anybody's taken responsibility for this little piece of heaven. Not that you're aware of. And I agree with Attorney Berger that it's superfluous since it's not in question.
Yeah, and so the question, as far as timing, is how long would it take to get any of that information from DOT?
Can I speak on one for the DOT thing?
Sure.
Can we ask that they not include the time that the bridge was being replaced? Because that's going to throw your numbers way off.
They know how to do that, yeah. We'll be glad to bring it up again. I think what we're more interested in is the potential crash data either between them and the Highway Patrol or what have you. I'm sure the sheriff will have somebody help us out with that.
Sir, we can request that from the first sergeant crash report.
Do you have any idea how long it may take to get that information?
I can't tell you tonight, but we'll make a call tonight and make aware. I'll get you an answer.
So I guess the question is, at what point do you want to put this back on the calendar?
Next meeting.
No, not next week. January, yes.
You can continue to a date specific, or you can continue the hearing to a future date to be re-advertised. It would still be the same hearing, but you have that tool available to you if we were to establish a date and send another postcard mailing.
Okay, before we do that, I'd like to know the impact of delays on the applicant.
I think we got.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for letting me talk again. The impact would be that, we've spent a tremendous amount of money and efforts in a due diligence process, and we've got a contract that is, time of the essence. And I've heard some of the questions up here about DOT. DOT is not going to allow us a drive interest. They're not going to permit it unless they deem it as safe. So, I know there's a lot of concerns up here, but they're not going to permit this project unless they feel like that we're giving them a legitimate ingress and egress, to allow people to ingress the property safely and egress the property safely. So I know there's a lot of concerns, but the turn lane that they've asked us to improve out there is probably going to cost in excess of $150,000 to build. So, and that's on our dime. So we're making provisions to make sure that the safety is respected of all the local folks coming. And plus, it's going to benefit the community because there'll be a left turn lane in this property, so there won't be anybody, slowing down, stopping in the main line of traffic to create a bottleneck.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Strickland, and I don't doubt your veracity at all, but we kind of need to hear it from DOT.
Well, there's an email, I think, that maybe you have from the local engineer approving the site plan that was presented here tonight.
Carrie?
With the improvements that's made on the site plan.
No, they haven't done a
Just,
review.
Yeah, but he give us indication as what the requirements were. Justin Julian is the gentleman's name. He's district engineer in this area.
We know him well.
Yeah.
Do you have a point, Laura?
I was just going to reiterate with the driveway permitting process, that NCDOT will have its own separate and rigorous review. It's just sort of the rezoning is the first step, and it's a little bit outside the scope of this evening. And certainly they will be more than able to tell us no if they decide that it's unsafe or insufficient in any way. So.
Yeah, I don't want to be callous, but this county's been operating since 1785 without a Dollar General at that particular location. I think it can probably make it till January. Anyhow, I will ask Commissioner Pirtle if his motions to table until we have that information stands.
Yes.
Second.
Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion.
Just for clarity, we're not setting a date. We're just going to re-advertise, but that would not be a new public hearing.
Right.
Okay.
And for the public out there, do you understand? That means when this comes up again, we're not going to have another public hearing. We're going to look at the factual data, the technical data that's presented at that time. This will not happen before the first Monday in December, I can tell you that, and perhaps the first Monday in January. But it will be advertised as per ordinance. Have I missed any of the nuts and bolts there?
Notification in the paper, or is that what you're saying?
Carrie, tell them all the notifications we do.
Sure. We publish a notice in Rockingham Now, which is a subsidiary of Greensboro News and Record. We post the property, and we can remove the sign at this point, although I don't know that that's really productive. And we mail a postcard notice of public hearing 10 to 25 days before the date.
Okay. Did you hear all that, Steve?
The notice of in the newspaper is published 2 weeks in a row, 2 consecutive weeks in a row prior to the hearing.
I hear it and I understand it. I'm just, I just want to make sure that most of the people that are here for or against understand the process, because there seems to be some confusion. And since you guys are going to post this later, it almost feels sort of like a hidden process going on. It doesn't feel very transparent to the general population.
If I may, would the neighbors be willing to offer a representative or two that we could notify and keep up to date with the notice?
That's fine. That's fine by me.
Did you guys hear her? She's asking for volunteers. Ms. Kravitz, I would assume that you're one from the applicant side. Steve?
I don't mind taking the lead for it. I'll be glad to provide information for everybody here. That way everybody can contact me directly as well as the applicant.
It's not formal notice of this offering as a courtesy. We don't confuse that with a formal notice, but just keep you posted.
Mr. Chair, may I note that this, reiterate to what Commissioner Berger just mentioned, tonight the public hearing was open and evidence was set before the board. It's been presented to you, and the public hearing has been closed. So there's not a problem with the board tabling it for a final vote down the road.
Yeah, and we all have our opinions about what we've heard so far, but I, for one, don't want to enter this process of making a decision when there's other pertinent data available that may well impact about what we do. And even though I made the little joke about 1785, it will be there for at least 10 years. We heard that earlier.
15.
Okay, 15.
I want to be clear that we should not publish in the newspaper if it's not, that could be confused with a notice of public hearing. John, do you have a suggestion?
I believe that just an adequate notice would work. It is not an official public hearing, although the public hearing has been open and has been closed.
Well, we can simplify this.
Go ahead.
Put it on the December meeting. If we don't have the data, we'll table it again.
How about that?
Mrs. Clerk, did you get that?
Would that make it easier for those in the audience? If we tell you right now it's going to be December, if we don't have it,
What's
we'll-
that date? Okay.
First
All right.
Okay. And for the applicant, that should be less of an impact. Before we leave this matter, I just want to quiz the commissioners. Is there any other piece of information you think would be pertinent and we have not received?
Well, I think Commissioner Pirtle needs to amend his motion to table it till December 7th, and then...
I will amend my motion to table it till December 7th.
I'll amend my second.
Okay.
All right. Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. The ayes have it. We're moving on. Yet another public hearing. Bill Lester.
Kill me. Kill me.
I think this may go a little quicker. Casey, thank you for being there. Bill, thank you for being here. This is in regards to submission of an application for a grant.
Thank you, Chairman. You are correct. This is a required second public hearing, actually, that is required by the Community Development Block Grant Program. It is an application that would be for the full amount available to the CDBG COVID Relief Fund set up in North Carolina Department of Commerce of $900,000. The purpose of the grant would be to assist with public service within the community that may provide up to $1,000 per qualifying household of low and moderate income persons, generally for the purpose of assisting in the prevention of homelessness. This assistance will include utility payments to prevent disconnection and rent mortgage payments to assist in preventing eviction. Also included in that would be utility payment of utility bills. The application process is an open process. This is not like a lot of the community development block grant programs, but it is within the same process in North Carolina Department of Commerce. What we will do is submit. It's on a first come, first serve upon applications that are deemed fitting for the funding. Some applications have already been funded, and this type project is similar to at least one or two that have been funded, and we know others that are being submitted similar to it. I am here mainly because of my history in the Community Development Block Grant Program and my history of helping you apply for these. This will operate a little differently, though. This will need a partner, someone else who will help you assist in the process of vetting the applicants and making sure these funds not only go to those of low and moderate income in need, but making sure that they are not, in the best term I'm coming up with right now real quick, double dipping, because there are other programs that are assisting in this. There may be a possibility that people need additional funds, but you're going to need someone to make sure that is taken care of properly. What we would propose, because you have someone in the community who is interested in that and is assisting in similar activities, is the United Way, and I think we're going to hear from someone there in just a minute as a part of this. But tonight's public hearing is the second. You held a first public hearing in conjunction with an economic development project earlier. It's the same funding agency, so that first public hearing counts because it's less than 12 months ago. After tonight, you will be able to consider the resolution to submit. And if you choose to move forward, we should be able to wrap up the application process pretty quick so that you can be in the process if you so choose to be considered. And you can open it, and I think there's at least a few to speak.
Yes, but just for clarity, we were looking at the grant itself, and you alluded to the vetting of potential recipients of this money. So,
Yes, sir.
Casey, we look forward to hearing your comments.
Casey Vincent, 538 East Stadium Drive. I am here to speak tonight as Executive Director for the United Way of Rockingham County, and request that the County Commissioners consider applying for the North Carolina Community Development Block Grant for coronavirus. The state of North Carolina established the public service category as its first priority with this grant. This category is to provide assistance with rental, mortgage, and utility payments to prevent evictions and utility disconnections. Due to government-mandated closings and mandates that must be carried out whenever an employee tests positive for COVID-19, large numbers of Rockingham County residents have been laid off completely, or at the very least had their work hours cut significantly. Prior to March of 2020, Rockingham County's unemployment rate hovered around 4%. Once the mandated lockdown and closure started, our unemployment rate peaked in May of 2020 above 12%. While it is on its way down, the impact between March and May of 2020 is still being felt by our residents. Some locations are still not allowed to operate at full capacity, which means they are still not fully staffed. This translates to an increase in need of assistance. While there were measures in place to suspend evictions and utility cutoffs, those measures are slowly being lifted. Those Rockingham County citizens who had their incomes impacted are most likely now behind on at least one of their monthly mortgage, rent, or utility payments, and now face possible eviction and or cutoff. The limited existing programs within Rockingham County these residents can turn to for assistance were not developed for such large-scale needs. The existing programs are funded more for a crisis for a few households a month, not for vast number of households who now find themselves in this position. I can tell you our number of calls for rental, mortgage, and utility assistance have climbed drastically. I can tell you this because I am who speaks with those callers. In the past years, the number one call we received had been related to food insecurity. Now my number one call, hands down, is help for rent and utilities. I receive 5 to 6 of these calls a day. When speaking with a representative from Duke Energy, they could not provide specific numbers for Rockingham County due to policy. However, they did provide information they are turning into the State Energy Commission. Duke Energy shows that they have 108,000 plus residents in the state of North Carolina that are currently more than 60 days past due. With the median income of Rockingham County being close to $10,000 below that of the state median income, and Rockingham County sitting at close to an 18% population living in poverty, you can extrapolate out that we will have a large number of residents falling into the past due column with utilities and housing. I am imploring you to please apply for the CBDG grant for Rockingham County citizens. The United Way offers itself as a partnering agency to assist the county in vetting those applicants. Any questions?
Any questions, technical? I declare the public hearing open. No one has signed up other than Ms. Casey Vincent, and we've heard her spiel. We've been through this before. Anybody else wish to speak on this issue? Hearing none, public hearing closed. Questions or motions?
So administration of this would be through what group?
United Way?
Yes, sir.
You
Okay,
have the
solely
staff to
through
do
United
this?
Way, but who's on the hook for the money?
The county.
Okay. And so has Pat and United Way worked that out?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that we were wanting to see if we got past this first. If we got past this, we would go to the next step. If we didn't go any further, then
Yes, sir.
I think if the board chooses to move forward in a resolution authorizing the chairman and the manager to sign, I would add to that, there could be a memorandum of understanding that'll kind of put in place that the county's going to receive the money, that United Way would actually work as kind of an administrator of the funds, And I think I've talked to Casey. If there's any CDBG things that need some help, I'll be glad to make sure that the county is covered there, if that's what United Way and the county would choose. But in the past, that's what most folks are doing, putting a mechanism in place, and it could say exactly what you're saying right there, I think, unless there's more to that.
And do we have any idea of what time period the grants could cover or would cover?
I don't know that I can answer that. Most community development block grant programs are open for at least 30 months.
Well, I guess
Is that
what
you
I'm
mean?
referring to is what time periods of the lack of payment it
Okay,
could possibly cover.
I can speak to this. The United Way has also partnered with the City of Eden to do the same vetting process. And in the MOU we have developed with the City of Eden, the application process deems itself what the requirements are. So part of that MOU that we would be developing would also include what the application looked like, what the requirements would be, what the documentation would be, and all of that would be done once we knew the process was going further.
And capped at $1,000.
Yes, and we with the Eden one, we capped it at $1,000 per household. So you were looking at around, if you applied for the full amount, you're looking at somewhere around 800 to 900 applications, capped at $1,000 per household, unless the board wished to change that. That was the agreement we had with the City of Eden.
Commissioner Berger, in other areas, that $1,000 per household is fairly standard. I think the governor's program is pretty much capped at the same thing, because there's a HOPE program through North Carolina Office of Resilience and Recovery. I might have switched those R's up, but it's the same thing. And I think the timing, I've seen people say it could be up to 6 months worth, as long as it caps at $1,000 per house.
Is it backward looking or only forward looking? In other words,
It's backward looking. It's trying to help people get caught up to keep from losing their utilities and or being evicted.
Okay. And we put in place what the requirements are?
Including to make sure, if you want to make sure it's COVID time period forward to the current date. I think is, I don't know if anybody's thought about that yet, but I think I've answered that question in another location.
Well, I think what I'm getting at, and certainly there are some folks that have had a hard time, but I know when this type of issue as far as non-payment of utilities came up with the county, we looked at it and found out that we didn't have anybody that was new to the late payment game. And I call it a game because all of ours were habitual.
I won't disagree with that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, and there was no communication with the county as far as, you know, hey, this has happened. We actually reached out to folks, and you know, I mean, there was no communication back. So you know, that is discouraging when you're trying to help somebody that is in need. And of course, the good thing is those folks that were falling on hard times were finding ways to make ends meet, which was good. Also, in seeing evictions on a fairly routine basis, a lot of folks quit paying once the Attorney General overstepped his bounds. It was not for lack of ability. It was for the Attorney General telling them they didn't have to pay. And so that's a concern. Are we just bailing out folks that refuse to pay their bills, or are we really helping folks that have fallen on hard times due to the pandemic?
May I speak to some of that? With some of those phone calls I get, I won't disagree with that. I've been with United Way for 6 years, and it's not the first time I'm getting phone calls for rental assistance or utilities assistance. Sure. But the increase such drastically that we've been dealing with, and also with the Salvation Army of Rockingham County, I spoke with them today, and they've almost doubled that need, that claimed need for assistance than what they've historically done. And because of the lifting of these the measures that were preventing disconnections, they're actually expecting their request to double again between now and November. So I do think, yes, there are those that will always play the system, but I do think we have some residents who need our assistance.
Sure, and what I'm getting at is the concern is the vetting process to get to that point. Because those that lack effort certainly lack my sympathy. Those that have the effort or want to place the effort, then I'm all for helping them. But so
I got the gavel. I had a question if you
go ahead.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you for being here. Thank you for stepping up. I guess my question would be to Lance, and nothing against United Way. I just wrote you guys a check. Did we look at any other agencies? How did we land on the United Way and not the Salvation Army, or even internally? I mean, we have a whole department that has their own assistance program that deals with utilities. Did we look internally to see? It seems like to me it may have been cleaner. I don't know. I'm just asking, how did we land? Did everybody have the same opportunity to participate as the Salvation Army? I mean, as the United Way?
Commissioner Hall brought this up to me about the CDBG program, and he had known, I think, that Casey had worked with the City of Eden, so he suggested that the United Way would be an easy transition to oversee the vetting and to maintain this program.
Okay.
So we have not used anybody else or considered anybody else.
Commissioner, one quick note to that. In other areas we've worked that are applying or have already applied, that third party was recommended, number one. I'm going to let Casey help me answer this, but I think in looking at those, yes, Commissioner Hall did kind of bring that to us, but I think United Way is locally based here in Rockingham County, and some of these others may not be.
There are federal guidelines on what counties and which organizations counties and municipalities can use to partner with for this situation if they choose to have a partner. And there are only two in Rockingham County. One is the United Way of Rockingham County, and the other is the Salvation Army. I think Commissioner Hall and the City of Eden both had concerns that the Salvation Army's management is now handled out of Charlotte, whereas Rockingham County is a local organization whose board of directors are here and live in the county.
Commissioner Travis.
I know there's some families out there that need some help, and I want to give them the help. My biggest concern with United Way is I want to know how much of this $900,000 is going to administrative cost, and how much is going to be used to operate this program. If it's less than $900,000, then I might have a real big issue with it.
Well, for processing's sake, we are allowed to charge an administrative fee. We haven't negotiated that. The cap on it to what it could possibly be is 10%. So that's $90,000.
And usually that's what United Way does. 10%.
Well, with this local organization, no, we don't. Yes, some United Ways do, but no, we don't. So,
what is their time frame of distributing this $900,000 out to?
That's based on if we do the cap and the number of applications we take, it's based on how quickly we get those applications in.
I mean, if you do 10% administration fee, is that yearly?
No, it's one shot.
Fee?
We get $90,000 to do all the processing, application development, all of that.
And I appreciate United Way what they do for Rockingham County, but I also understand where Kevin's coming from. We have social services that can do the same thing, and we're already paying and won't take no money out of administrative fees.
This is true.
You don't
have the capacity in the employee.
We don't have the capacity, but
they're already way behind as it is.
I mean, we receive referrals from social services.
But I think United Way would be a good partner with us because they've usually done pretty good in the past. I just like to give the citizens more bang for the buck. So if some way we can negotiate some kind of administrative fee, but I guess we can't.
It's part of the grant. That's not what I asked for, but.
Bill, what, move forward with this part or this point of the process, what's the next step?
If the board chooses to pass a resolution to submit, then what my group has been doing is putting the application together. It's not the same as all of our water and sewer and other things, but it's similar enough with all the compliance issues. We can wrap it up probably in 7 to 10 days and deliver it to the North Carolina Department of Commerce and await their approval.
And, okay, and then once they get back to us,
It'll be like most CDBG projects. Once it's approved, there'll be the standard hoops to jump through. You'll need to go through the request for release of funds. You'll have to set, we'll be telling them what our process is and what our program looks like, but they'll want to set all those things in place, make sure you signed off on it, make sure everybody's on board. You'll be sending things into them. All the CDBG compliance things will be updated. And at that time, the money will still come through Rockingham County. Whatever United Way sets in place and recommends will still track back through the county to North Carolina Commerce. Money comes back to the county signs off, and then back to United Way to pay.
With the pass-through.
That's right.
And my question, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, my only question was that as a result of this administrative fee, and I appreciate my colleague bringing it up, I knew there was one, but that's why I was going towards, we didn't feel it necessary, or it is not necessary to do any type of RFP because there's going to be an expenditure of tax dollars, and it sounds like upwards of $90,000 is it can max out at.
We don't have to, and as we're times of the essence, and so we had to come up with a plan, and United Way was our only alternative based on our maxed out at the DSS.
I'm happy with that response. I just wanted to ask the question.
And realize that we may not get, we're applying up to 900,000. We may get 400,000, and the need might not be 900,000. We have no idea.
Right. And we do cap out at 10% of whatever's granted. It's not a flat fee.
and you pay directly to landlords and utility companies.
Yes,
correct?
it does not go to the recipients who are approved. It's paid through the county, but it goes directly to the utility company and or the landlord, property manager, whoever.
And one comment, as an administrator of your other type projects, I'll say this, that percentage fee is going to be based on what money you receive. It's not going to count in the vetting of ever how many doesn't even get through the process. So there's a little work behind the scene that it's just part of it.
I'm fine with that.
Well, I think we're all agreed. I'm trying to move on with this thing because we all want to get the money. Something's better than nothing, as I heard somebody say up here. But we're concerned that whatever the source, it's public money, and we want to make sure we have proper oversight. Lance, we'll have to lean on Pat a little bit here, and whoever else you think ought to look over Casey's people's shoulder.
Well, and also, again, the MOU, once we work together, the MOU is part of the application, so we will have to come to some type of agreement on who's responsible for it and how the application process is going to work before we can apply.
Right. Okay. This is the second public hearing, and that's the last one?
Yes, sir.
You need a motion?
Further discussion? Yes, I do need a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the county submit the CDBG-CV application for $900,000 to assist with public service by providing subsistence payments for low and moderate income households.
Motion made to approve.
I second.
And seconded. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. Thank you. We appreciate it. Mr. Paul Murray and his,
Paul didn't learn.
do we need both?
Ryan.
Let's see here.
Stir out a heart attack. Might be a record. Don't fuss at me.
Come on, Paul.
Time's up.
Yep, that's it.
I get the end. So, I'm here tonight just to give you an update of our new county website, what we've been working on, give you a little background, and just kind of give you a sneak peek of where we're at. So, a little background, this is our current website right now. The functionality and information that's on the site has largely not changed since 2012. It's not the most user-friendly website. It's not optimized for mobile devices. and information can really be hard to find if any of you have ever tried to find anything on there. At your board retreat, I think it was 2 years ago, the board added the target accomplishment to enhance and promote the county's website under the citizen engagement and communication goal. So therefore, we set out to completely refresh the website, make it look a whole lot better, make it a lot more functional. We started this process by meeting with several major governmental website developers in late 2019 and receiving quotes. We ended up with 4 proposals and ultimately decided to go with a company called Municipal One to be our vendor for this. So once we selected them, we set up a small steering committee that's comprised of myself, of the IT director, Derek, of an IT business analyst, Megan Dyson, Lee Cockrum, Tara Martin, and Nina Worth, who's our lead from North Carolina fellow. COVID slowed us down quite a bit, but ultimately we've made some pretty good progress. So first change that we are making is to the website name. So right now our website is co.rockingham.nc.us. It's hard to explain to people. It's not the most easiest thing to kind of rattle off when somebody's asking. So we, after doing quite a bit of work, we now own RockinghamCountyNC.gov and RockinghamCountyNC.com. It's a whole lot cleaner. It's easier to tell people if you're giving out your email address. We're pretty excited about that. We actually had to work with the News and Record because they owned RockinghamCountyNC.com to get that release so we could get it.
Did we pay?
Very, very little.
How much is little? Any penny to them is a penny wasted.
How much did we pay for .com?
Is it News and Record shop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to them, only to the domain register. Yeah. So that's it for the existing site. I think everybody's pretty familiar with it. If I can click over. All right, so this is a first draft of our new site. This is where it stands as of now. As a caveat, it's very much still under construction. There's lots that we still have to do. First thing you see is big pictures. We're very lucky, obviously, to have a beautiful county. We have amazing pictures kind of everywhere from economic development. We're actually working on something now where if there'll be something that pops up and tells you where the picture was taken. And every picture that we use on here is going to be from Rockingham County. If you scroll down on the new site, you'll see these little boxes are intended to be the main reasons people visit the site. That's based off of traffic. So if you're looking for a county job, you want to pay your taxes, you want to go straight to GIS maps, you want agendas and minutes, those types of things. Further down, you can see we've got public hearing notices, bids and RFPs, watching meetings, that kind of thing. And it's kind of cool when you scroll over, it'll give you more information on it. This has been a request for a while, but this is a new calendar. So it's easy to read, and it actually feeds in from all of the sites that we have. So economic development, sheriff, DSS, all of them, their stuff will come onto here, and you can filter down farther than that. This is a little fly-in where you can add whatever information that you want from different departments, and it'll kind of calculate up, so it's kind of cool. News, kind of similar to what we already have now, but you can kind of see we're trying to stick with pictures, not as much text. So that's kind of the end of the home page. I'll click through a couple of departments real quick, just so you can kind of get the idea. That'll work. So county manager, this is kind of what we're shooting for the department. Again, every picture at the top will be of Rockingham County, and hopefully will tell you where that was at. This was taken in Reedsville. Contact information down at the bottom. Just general, simple, clean, looks much nicer, easier to find stuff. I'll skip ahead to HHS. Again, with the same goal of everything being cleaner, easier to find, we tried to find the top reasons people come to the site. So become a foster parent is number one. Like right now, you go onto their website, it's not one of the primary things you see, and yet I know that's a major push for them. COVID-19, environmental health, so you can see perk tests, restaurants, inspections pop up. It's pretty cool how that works.
Are they organized based on the number of hits for each one? And I guess my question is, if one gets more hits than the other, will it move up the list, or you have to actually?
No, that's a cool idea, though. We will see if we can make that happen. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, this was these topics at least were done in conjunction with, Derek has been meeting with HHS on stuff they want. Again, the logos might change, the colors might change, but this is just the general layout of what we're going for. I think it's a whole lot easier to find stuff going around than our existing sites. So next steps, we're continuing to give information to the vendor. It's a huge process. We're not converting our existing site. We're building it from scratch. Our existing site has way too much stuff that needs to be cleaned out. We're working on building the HHS and the sheriff's sub-sites, and barring any major setbacks, the site will be ready to launch by early next year. That's the goal. Once the main site launches, then we're going to start working on economic development and tourism redoing their sites as well. So I'm pretty excited. Our little group, well, most of our group is here. It's been a great project, and like I said, we just want to give you a heads up on what we've been working on. And
I just got one question.
yes.
If a citizen wants to report some kind of fraud or report bad area of litter, where they go?
I think even on here, if I remember right, there was somewhere that I saw in here. We definitely will make sure that that's one of the things that's prominent on the HHS site and even on the homepage. I remember seeing something about fraud on here somewhere.
Would have been a sheriff.
It might have been. I don't think sheriff is built up too far yet. Okay, yeah, it's not. Really, we focused this first little bit on getting the bones set up, and then now we can start filling it in with content. We'll make sure that's there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's under, like, you can say, I want to, and it will say report fraud, like in the search box.
Yeah, these up here are actually going to change a little bit. We're going to add an I want to, and it's going to have things like report fraud, pay my, fill in the blank bills, that kind of thing. But we're pretty enthused with how this has turned out so far. Yeah. All right.
Further questions?
No.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
Ronnie Tate, Director of Engineering and Public Utilities. Is this worth waiting for?
Well, I think so. Hopefully, you gentlemen will too. I have 3 projects before you tonight for approval. The first one is approval of Caldwell Tanks Incorporated out of Louisville, Kentucky, for the construction of a 500,000-gallon water tank located on Sylvania Road. The amount for the construction contract is $2,205,350. The tank construction itself is $2,067,000. We added a chlorination station to the tank for $35,000 and a 5% contingency of $103,350. That brings you to the total of $2.2 million.
The tank is $2,102,000.
Yeah, if you add the 35 to it. I said 35. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So $2.2 million is funding from Golden Leaf, and the match for the county is actually $27,000. It says $22,500, but it's actually $27,000 is the match. And so the money's already in the current budget, and we're asking for board approval, along with approval to allow the county manager to approve change orders up to $50,000.
Question?
Motion.
Motion?
Second.
Motion made, second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay.
Okay.
Let the record show that it's 4-0. Absence counts as a yes.
Okay, the next one is the construction of the Phase 3 water line extension, and this is an extension from the town of Mayodan down to interconnect with our 220 system. The low bidder was KRG Utilities Incorporated out of Kernersville. If you remember, they were the contractor for the Phase 2 water line for us and completed that successfully. So the project for the construction cost is $2,218,100 plus 10% contingency of $221,810. Gives you a project total of $2,439,910. Again, also requesting that the board allow the county manager to approve change orders for this project up to $50,000. The money is in the current budget and is the state, it came from the state budget office, is that correct? Is that, Kevin?
Yeah, I think that's where it is. It
Yeah.
actually came through my dad.
Right, yeah.
Addition
Yeah.
to the state budget. what,
Yeah.
3 years ago, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
whenever it was. But
Make a motion.
second.
Motion made, second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay. One more.
Okay, and this one's a new business, and thank you for allowing us to slide this in at the last minute. We got approval from CDBG to allow us to move this one ahead. It is under a bit of a time constraint with the construction at Ontax ongoing now and trying to get sewer service to them. This is the I-73 sewer line extension project. The low bidder was Yates Construction. Their bid was $1,856,741.09. 10% contingency of $185,674. Project total is $2,042,416. Funding is $2.3 million from CDBG funds and $993,500 from Rockingham County for the CDBG match. Again, with approval to allow the county manager for approved change orders up to $50,000. And that money is also in the current budget as well.
Discussion or motion?
Yeah.
If I could add one quick thing, we have been told through email this money is available now and the request for release of funds is available. They knew that we needed to get this moving quickly. The paperwork is not in the county manager's hands, so when you make the award, if you so choose, if you would just make it contingent upon receiving the final paperwork and all that going through, just to make sure nothing crazy happens there. But they told us we could do that. I think Lee's also been in contact with North Carolina Commerce on that.
Right. Would anybody care to make a motion that includes that contingency?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed by nay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You bet. That was on a new business. Commissioner comments. Travis?
No comment tonight.
Mr. Pirtle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank everybody for being out here tonight. I know we're running a little bit later than we usually do, and there's been some folks that stuck out the whole meeting, so thank you. I've had opportunity to visit some of our voting sites, and it's happy to say that it looks like there's lines out there. I hope voters will be patient, because it's every vote counts, and so I encourage you to get out to vote. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Berger?
I appreciate the large crowd earlier tonight, and I echo Commissioner Pirtle's comments about voting. Certainly encourage you to go to the polls. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of indecision in the county, particularly in regard to schools, openings and closing. I'm satisfied the school system is doing the best it can to deal with the COVID. Your county manager and I were in conversation, or actually we were listeners, I believe is what it would say, except for my question, with Secretary of Health and Human Services Cohen today. And I felt obligated to pass on, which I think is a valid cause, everything you can do to help prevent the spread. This means masks, this means space, it means weight. You've heard all of that before. But now we're beginning to get some evidence that it really does pay off. And so I think ultimately your personal safety depends on you to a great degree. So use good judgment where you are and keep our county as safe as you can. I think you really do have an excellent Health and Human Services Department here. But let's do the best we can to help ourselves out. We'll be going into a closed session based on a motion here in a moment. I don't think there will be anything coming out of that that will be worthy of the general public hanging about. That as it may, we will move to closed session if somebody cares.
I'll be happy to make that motion. Before I do, Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank Roy. I don't think nobody thanked Roy for sticking it out tonight. We appreciate you, Roy, help getting our message out to the citizens of Rockingham County and being as transparent as we possibly can. With that said, I'd make a motion we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-31811A4, business and industry expansion.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion here? None. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay.